Hello there. It is 6:49 p.m. on April 8th, Wednesday, 2026, and I am sitting at an intersection right now of, what is there even to say? Close to the Blue Ridge Parkway and the Appalachian Trail. I'm all set up a little ways down the road, and I was just looking for a place where I could sit, drink some wine, and, be warm a little bit. I've kind of got the sun to my back, which is nice. And today was a pretty social day as far as days have gone. I also ate a lunch that was like far too big. And so I think I've just had like 3 hours of being incredibly bloated, feeling like I might be sick again. Thankfully that hasn't happened, and I don't think it will. But hey, cheers to that. And a friend of mine may be making his way back up here. A fellow road walker, shout out to E.T., aka Enlightened Tucker. And I'm pretty much looking forward to a pretty early evening. And I'm not sure if I'm going to have the typical flair that I like to have. I still feel a little bit sensitive, and I don't want to be yucky into the microphone, even though I feel pretty bloated still. I mean, it was not as bad as it was earlier. I think my thought is that my stomach has upregulated its acid production so that when I do eat, more gas is created. And if I eat too much, then a lot of gas is created. I don't know. Notebook LM, fact check me there. Is that a thing? Who even knows? But yeah, quite a day. It went off pretty much without a hitch. I woke up at 6:22, which again, I swear, like 22, like that's a number that my body likes to wake up at, whether it's 7:22, 6:22. That's about it, actually. But yeah, the 22s are alive and well. And yeah, I was like, well, I want to get going and get to the road. And my friend E.T. is texting me. Let me give him a message real quick. He walked on. He's, like I said, a fellow road walker. But then he got to a pretty aggressive sign that said, like, if you trespass here, you could go to jail for 6 months. I've actually seen that sign before. It's pretty standard. It also has changed my behavior in the past because I've gotten to that sign on the Blue Ridge Parkway and then been like, man, I don't want to get... It's like 6 months in jail and or a $5,000 fine, which seems very unlikely for that either one of those would actually happen. I think he could probably walk through, but I don't blame him for being a little unsure. And given that there is like... this roadblock, and now he's confirmed that it's actually a very firm road closure. That kind of alters my plans too. I might end up walking to Buchanan tomorrow, which would be fine. I would hate the fact that I had to carry all this food for no reason, but there would be better food in Buchanan, and then I can walk from Buchanan to Glasgow, basically do the same thing I was going to do, but slightly before I intended on doing it, so who knows. But yeah, I got some friends' phone numbers today. Shout out to Mustachio, shout out to Enlightened Tucker, aka E.T., and shout out to my parents for good measure. Let's hope that Chardonnay is a protein pump inhibitor, like omeprazole, a protein pump inhibitor. That's how that stuff works. It makes your stomach less acidic. Proton pump, hydrogen, H+. Who knows? Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm going to be yucky. Can't help it. But yeah, I got up at 6:22. It was a strong start, got up. Pretty much immediately went down to the breakfast. I had a couple of bowls of cereal, which was very tasty. And again, I feel like I'm trying to give my flora and fauna whatever it needs to restart. I honestly feel like I have like a little bit of heartburn, which is a pretty foreign experience for me. But, I'm just going to chalk all that up to living the dream for now. I don't have I will say the walk that I did today, which was 22 miles, was just a pretty strong, like, trial by fire to jump back on the trail and immediately just do another 22-mile day. Like, that's difficult to do even in the best of times. So the fact that the walk itself wasn't actually any kind of prohibitive issue, I feel good about that. But yeah, I think I jumped into the deep end with my food and had to pay the piper for a little bit. But, you know, nothing a little yucky behavior can't fix. So might end up having a friend to road walk with tomorrow. But yeah, so went down to breakfast, had the cereal, had some coffee, went back up to my room. I was pretty much all the way packed, but finalized all that kind of stuff and, you know, did my final shakedown of the room, whatever remaining Needfuls that were still there. And then I left for the road at 8. It was like 8 on the dot. And I have to say, leaving at 8 made the day go by very, very quickly. I did majority road walk today for about 16 miles on the road, all on the Blue Ridge Parkway. It was glorious. And yeah, let's see if this is my dude. If he got a ride. He said he was going to try to hitch back to this area if he could, because he walked like 2 miles down the trail. It's not looking super hopeful. I don't see him in there. No. Oh, my dude. But yeah, hit the trail, and I wanted to go get some Zen before getting back on trail proper, so I road walked from the hotel down Lee Highway, which I think is Virginia Route 11 or something like that. It's a pretty major highway, and it's also one that is part of, I think, the Trans Am. Goes through Troutville and Daleville and all that kind of stuff. So that was pretty cool. And I think I was road walking for, you know, a couple miles before I ultimately got back on trail, and then I had to be on trail for about 6 miles or so. And that took me all the way up to this road called Salt Pond Road, which then I was able to jump off the trail and take that over to the Blue Ridge Parkway, and then walk from the Blue Ridge Parkway all the way to where I am now. I am bummed that this road closure means that we won't be able to be on the Blue Ridge Parkway, well, for a little bit, you know. I don't think that it's going to mess up my logistics too much. I do need to do some math. It might end up being a pretty big day tomorrow, because it's pretty vital that I get to Glasgow tomorrow in order to be able to stay at the shelter that is in the town, because that's sort of my pivot point for all of the logistics that I've been doing. But I think that that's quite doable, and so I guess if it had to be this way, it could certainly be worse. And yeah, it was a long stretch. I think it was about, I don't know, what was it, maybe 12 miles, I think, to get from the Blue Ridge Parkway's beginning all the way to the first water source. So I just kind of plugged and chugged, put Harry Potter on, and walked. Then I got to a shelter, ate a lunch that was far too big for how small my stomach feels like it has now become, and then ran into E.T. He was coming to the shelter for the same reason, because he was also road walking. And again, I think that's so cool that I've met up with somebody. We were actually bullying this guy named Mustachio, who I also shouted out earlier, because he's a purist, and E.T. and I are both just road walking scum. It's a rare opportunity when two road walkers outnumber someone who's actually doing the Appalachian Trail proper. But it was all in good fun. We were just taking the piss, as they say, taking the piss out of each other. So, yeah, had that lunch for about an hour, which was great. I was 18 miles into the day by the time I finally got to that first water source, and I'd only carried about just a little shy of a liter from the hotel, but it's been pretty chilly today. Definitely need to sleep with my filter. And so, yeah, I walked from the shelter with E.T. all the way to this area that I'm at. What is the name of it? It's like Bigelow Gap or something like that. Bearwater Gap. What is the name of this place? It's worth looking up. Yeah, Bear Wallow Gap. So walked all the way to here, which is another water source that is also a intersection of the trail and the parkway. And we all filled up and went our separate ways. Mustachio, of course, stayed on trail. God love him. And then E.T. walked another 5 miles. He was hoping to stealth camp outside of this campground that had flush toilets. There's no accounting for tastes. And then I was pretty content. I was feeling pretty terrible for, about 2 or 3 hours. And so I was just like, I need to set up my tent, and then just like kind of batten down the hatches. I can't tell if I'm going to get sick again, obviously thinking the worst, but now feeling much better. And I won't eat any dinner tonight, but I think that'll be fine. I'll just have my wine and then wind down and hopefully sleep for like 12 hours and then hopefully wake up tomorrow. I think my health, in terms of my digestive system, I think I'm at about 70% of recovery. But in terms of my overall physicality, I'd say that I'm closer to like 85%, which is certainly a passing grade. And enough for me to be able to continue at the rate that I am walking. But yeah, what else? Yeah, hung out with all the dudes and then went and found a nice little camp spot. I'm pretty far away from my tent right now. I'm a little nervous because I don't want bears to get into my stuff, but I don't think that's very likely. But it is definitely inadvisable how far I am from my tent compared to, I probably just should walk back here soon enough. I also kind of feel like I don't need to stay here per se, but maybe I should drop a pin for where campsites are for my dude. Let's see. I don't even know if I can do this properly. That's another thing about road walking. You have service more often. Maybe not as much as might be expected from like normal life, but it's certainly more often than not. It sounds like there's another truck coming. He's a pretty resourceful dude, I think. I feel like if there is a will, which there certainly is, then there's got to be a way. But as the sun is now kind of no longer warming me from behind, I think I will walk at least towards my tent so I can kind of keep an eye on it. Don't want to get too lackadaisical. If a bear got in my tent and destroyed all my stuff, that would be a pretty big deal. That would be a bummer. And honestly, it's just too cold to be out here. It's not super chilly. It was definitely cool all day, which was nice, like good hiking weather, but also a little bit confusing for your internal temperature because it was like perfectly well and fine if you were moving, but if you stayed still for too long, you'd start to shake, And so I think I probably should start cultivating my own body heat so that I can stay warmer rather than less warm. Man. Yeah. I'm just observing my surroundings a little bit. It's only 5 miles to Buchanan. I've never been to Buchanan, I don't think. So that sounds fun to me. I think that's going to be my plan. Better than risking being caught. If it was like a shorter duration, the parkway is closed for 3 miles from like mile 89 to mile 86, which that would be hard to stay under the radar for that many miles, especially if they're doing some major work. Best to just avoid that if possible. And if there's an even better option, like going into town, that's always for the best, especially if my stomach is feeling even better. But yeah, the parkway is so great, man. This is, I wish the whole Appalachian Trail was just the Blue Ridge Parkway. 2,000 miles of this I could get used to. I swear, didn't see more than like 20 cars today on the parkway passing at any given time. So, perfectly reasonable traffic flow, especially with the closure. Like there's just very low traffic, very good views. It was a little cold, we were ridge walking for most of the day, and obviously no water. My tent is really far down. Man, I feel a little sore too from my backpack. Haven't had it on for like 48 hours or something. But yeah, so it's kind of cool too, because the Blue Ridge Parkway, it takes you straight to Rockfish Gap, which is where Waynesboro is, and also where the beginning of the Shenandoahs / Skyline Drive is. And I'm only 89 miles away from that, which is crazy. On trail, it's more like 130 or something. So there's like 50, I'm at mile 91. There's a sign right next to me. But yeah, that just means somehow the Appalachian Trail like adds an additional like 50 miles between here and there. And I'm sure it's arduous and grueling. I'll take the road walk, thank you very much. And now I'm descending from the parkway. And interestingly enough, yet again, and I probably just did, well, no, I didn't. Did I stay in Daleville last year? I don't think I did. I must not have. But then how would I have gotten all the way here? I don't remember what I did close to Daleville in 2022. But I did camp in this exact same place in 2022. Maybe I did a 30-mile day. I don't even know. I don't even remember. I wouldn't put it past me. But yeah, I camped in this exact same spot. So I guess for the last 3 times that I've camped, it's been in places that are actually very familiar, which is kind of cool. And I'm feeling pretty good about this spot. Again, looking forward to sleeping for as long as I can, and hopefully no nightly emissions that cause me to leave my tent prematurely. I don't think that there's any reason that should be the case unless I've been reinfected by something from my pack, which let's just hope that's not the case either. But yeah, living the dream, my dude. What else? I didn't make any notes today. I mean, it was all I could do just to kind of focus on getting the work done. And I do remember in 2022 that I got like one of my first ticks in this area, but it was much later in April. So I'm not really concerned about that happening again necessarily. But I am looking at my legs just to make sure. God, I'm like so ashy from taking showers. It's crazy. I'm back at my tent now. I'm really excited about sleeping here. It's like plenty of leaf litter, so there's not going to be any condensation. It is going to be chilly overnight, but I'm far enough away from the water source where that won't matter. I think last time I camped here, I camped like on this grassy area and probably woke up with a more wet tent. But condensation has definitely been something I've been more aware of, I guess, probably since doing the bike ride, just because I really hate waking up with like, my tent being covered in dew. And then you have to shake it all out and it doesn't really come off. And then you're carrying around some unknown quantity of extra weight because of the water on your tent, which is just like insult to injury, But yeah, let me get my little seat pad out and I'll sit on this little log and then I'll finish my Chardonnay and then we'll do our Needfuls, I suppose. I don't have any service anymore. Well, it's fair enough. Might need to walk back up to the road. I feel like I know I don't need to help this dude, but I feel like I should try if I can. He'll find his way and he'll do what he needs to do. But yeah, let me make a little room here. Okay. But yeah, man, just living the dream. One day at a time, one step at a time. I've said it before, but I do think that alcohol can have a kind of a calming effect for your stomach. I don't know if that's always very true, per se, and certainly not with this specific condition. I know, who even knows? Dude, I'm just all types of all over the place with what's been going on. But I'm still in good spirits, I did have the thought earlier, like if I were to have gotten sick again after having that lunch and feeling pretty bloated, I was like, well, to be fair, I don't know how many more days of this I would be willing to endure before I would have to start thinking about, like, if I needed to get off trail, like maybe not necessarily permanently, but that would certainly be an idea and a thought that would start to creep into my mind, where I'd just be like, dude, like, a couple of few days of reacclimation, which might be all that I need, is like reasonable. And I guess what I'm doing is just catastrophizing and spiraling. So I don't really need to give fuel to that fire too much. But yeah, there was like a part of me that was like, if I got sick to a point where it wasn't getting better, which I have to say it obviously is, because I did a 22-mile day today, and it was good. Like, I felt strong enough to do it. I felt stable enough to do it. And it makes sense that, although in an ideal world, I probably could have stood to stay another day at the hotel. I mean, I didn't want to, because it was $100 a night. But if all things were, inconsequential and equal weighted, I think I probably could have stayed one more day and then maybe been like closer to like 90% fully recovered. But I think this will be fine. If farm animals can exist, I was talking to Jim and I the other day when I was at the hotel, and I was just like, it amazes me, because like, road walking and stuff like that, I'm going by like a bunch of pastures, and these cows are just like covered in their own excrement, and then also just whatever kind of gross stuff they encounter from their environment as just being cows, and they're licking all over themselves, and they're licking each other, and I'm just like, how are these animals not sick all the time? And I mean, I know that it's like a matter of necessity and a matter of exposure. Like, they've been doing this their whole lives, and same with dogs, like the stuff that they can eat and not get sick. Like, I remember my dog Charlie, he would eat the most disgusting things. Like, I don't even want to get into it, but just like terrible things that would make me just want to disown him. Which I guess I eventually did, respectfully, in the proper way. I gave him up to an adoption company that made sure he found a new home, a Boston Terrier rescue from Tennessee. But yeah, like, I'm just amazed. Like, it's just like, well, what was it? There was a book that this guy named Christopher Ryan wrote called Civilized to Death. And it kind of discusses that general theme of like basically living in an environment that is overly sterilized, because obviously there's like a Venn diagram here between like a good healthy level of sterilization, and then also both, there's two circles. One of them is just like pure exposure to the world on its own terms. The other one is like human intervention and sterilization. And I think that we probably are a little bit more on the side of human intervention and sterilization, and a little bit less on the side of human, or the world on its own terms, to a degree that maybe there's like some negative consequences of that. I think a lot of autoimmune conditions are probably the result of that. Like, we have co-evolved with a lot of bugs, and I'm not talking about like ants, but like microscopic organisms. Like, I think there was this one story on this podcast called Radiolab. I think it's called The Monsters Within Us. It's a really good episode. It always stuck with me from the first time I ever heard it, obviously as someone who is like very concerned about health, even though I don't do the best job of safeguarding it all the time. This story kind of discussed like how humans specifically had co-evolved with like ringworm, and how ringworm, when a human is infected, it will actually kind of turn down the sensitivity of your immune system in order so that it can stay in your body and live as a definite parasite, but one that doesn't necessarily have like hugely consequential consequences, impacts to your health or something. And so, yeah, like I think about autoimmune conditions, a bunch of allergies and stuff like that. Like we don't get exposure to these bugs like we used to. And so our bodies are kind of almost like experiencing certain parts of our environment almost in a very real sense, like for the first time, and without those bugs that we grew up with as a species. Our body maybe freaks out because it's almost as if it's a foreign pathogen that we've just never experienced. Peanut butter comes to mind, like the fact that so many people can be allergic to that. It's pretty disadvantageous. Well, it's not, is it though? Because is peanut butter, isn't that probably just a product of industrialization? Like I don't think human beings evolved with much exposure to peanut butter, but whatever the case may be, we certainly, well, it certainly is an allergic reaction. It's anaphylaxis, etc. When you have an extreme allergy to peanuts, etc. And yeah, I don't know. I've heard at some point that like one of the best things you can do as a parent with proper supervision is to expose your children to peanut butter as soon as possible. But yeah, that episode of Radiolab, Monsters Within Us, they talk about some guy who had been suffering for a long time from a bunch of autoimmune issues. And then he went to Africa and literally walked around in the latrines, like in the areas close to the latrines, and barefooted. And then he got infected with ringworm. And the ringworm actually, again, downregulated his immune system. And it cured a lot of the issues he was having, so much so, I don't know, maybe this is apocryphal or otherwise unconfirmed, but he was actually selling his own, well, there's a concept of a fecal transplant. I guess we're really devolving here. But yeah, like this idea that, you basically get inoculated with someone else's gut flora, and he was selling his own to people who had similar conditions in the hopes that exposure to these microorganisms would, in general, improve the quality of their lives. And I do think that he was shut down from doing that. There's obviously some, well, I don't know. I don't know how you actually regulate anything like that. It seems like you could probably get away with it in the same way that people can sell, like, well, I saw a commercial this morning with John Walsh from America's Most Wanted, which he's gotten really old. I was shocked when I saw him. I was like, John Walsh, I know that name, but I can't place this face. And then I was like, oh my gosh, that's the guy from America's Most Wanted. He's really become quite wispy and wizened. Respectfully. I mean, he was already a distinguished older gentleman. Even when I was first exposed to him, he was probably in his mid-late 50s. I don't even know. But, yeah, he was, what was it called? It had such a crazy name. It was like Relaxium. I think it was called Relaxium. It was a sleep aid. And I was watching this commercial, and it was crazy because I was just like watching the basest level of consumerism like right in front of me. Because while he was describing this sleep aid, he wasn't talking at all about the ingredients of it or how it worked within the body or anything that you might call like a scientific explanation of how it actually works, its efficacy. And I was just like, man, this sounds like some garbage. This sounds like, what's that stuff? Prevagen, if you're familiar with Prevagen. I guess I've just been watching the Weather Channel too much, but Prevagen is supposed to be like a memory aid, and it prevents aging. Prevagen, so to speak. But yeah, watching Relaxium, I was like, okay, well, what is this stuff? Because it was a classic infomercial where it's like, if you act now, limited supplies, but if you do it, you can have 1 bottle for free, and we'll give you 3 bottles for the price of $80. And I was just like, man, this sounds like a total scam, just totally using like an appeal to authority because John Walsh is like a known quantity. And so I looked it up, and it was really a pretty simple, a pretty simple medicine that you could get for far cheaper, its component ingredients from pretty much any grocery store. It was just like melatonin, magnesium, it was maybe magnesium glycinate and not even magnesium threonate, and then like valerian root and chamomile extract, that kind of stuff. All the classic, most likely sleep aid stuffs that you can ever put together in a single product. And I was just like, man, what a unfortunate money grab. Like, makes me kind of, it doesn't make me lose respect for anything because it's to be expected. But yeah, just a rather unfortunate use of power to prey upon people who are vulnerable, but hey, that's classic capitalism for you. Speaking of which, OpenAI recently released an interesting document called, oh God, I don't even remember, but it's been referred to as a white paper or a blueprint. And I watched a not very interesting YouTube video last night from OpenAI itself discussing the document. But yeah, I'd highly recommend anyone who is interested in AI, grab the document, throw it in Notebook LM, and tell them to make a podcast out of it, because I don't know about you, but I'm not about to sit down and read an 18-page PDF about policy and how AI needs to be, how AI is going to shape domestic policy in the near future. But I did subscribe to this new podcast, which I probably will very quickly be unsubscribing from, but it's called like the AI Daily Brief or something like that, and they were discussing the paper. And in a similar way to the John Walsh misgivings that I bristled at earlier in the morning, I was just feeling a similar kind of like dis-ease about how, I don't know, I just didn't like how, I don't like news to begin with, but this podcast, it trespassed beyond simply talking about AI news and kind of went into the political aspect of it, which I really, really don't like politics, and I really don't like sociology by and large, because that's just like magnifying a general annoyance of mine, which is just like, it's just humanity en masse, it's like things don't become more clear when you involve more people. And so it was just annoying because like this guy was ostensibly reporting about like this important document that OpenAI has put out that kind of is like basically begging the U.S. government and then world governments to like, have basically like a symposium to figure out how everyone can have a coordinated effort to kind of mitigate the possible fallout from the societal blowback that is about to occur when, artificial superintelligence is achieved. It's an interesting situation because basically, capitalism, it depends on scarcity, and it specifically depends on a division between capital and labor. And so labor is the thing that will get you capital, and then the system basically runs on that relationship. And it's interesting because capital is about to completely saturate the market. Like there's going to be so much capital that there actually isn't enough labor to justify it, so to speak, or to utilize it. There will be more money than there will be people who can work to earn it. And so that's kind of the whole situation that the OpenAI blueprint was trying to address, because the paradigm of capitalism is about to collapse. And I'm not trying to be a doomsayer or a conspiracy theorist, but that is sort of the way that things are going. Like, Elon Musk is like the first trillionaire, and he won't be the last within our lifetime for sure. And that's just a harbinger of the changes that are coming, where like there's going to be this crazy influx of money that kind of like, again, doesn't have the inverse relationship to labor in order to make the system sustainable and stable. And so, again, I've been kind of hoping while I'm out here that everything kind of doesn't fall apart, but I was hoping that a paradigm shift would occur so that when I get back, there's no impetus to feel like I need to get a job, because like that's not the way things work anymore. And in short order, I think things won't be operating like that anymore. And this kind of transition has happened multiple times throughout human history. you know, you got to think about the Industrial Revolution, which took a previously agrarian society where like 98% of humanity were farmers. And then everything transitioned to, assembly lines and industry and automation and those kinds of things. And then that changed the paradigm. And, it's an interesting thing because technology, it doesn't necessarily destroy jobs, it augments them. And that's a crucial distinction. And so we're looking at a situation now where labor is, again, it's within the sight lines of the crosshairs of being augmented. And it's hard to say what that will exactly mean because it hasn't quite happened yet. But again, if you're someone who has any prescience of vision, it's not hard to imagine what it would be like. If the majority of people are involved in some type of like, what do they call it? I always forget the name. It's not called thought economy. What is it called when you're like a worker who all you do is what I used to do? What is that called? Knowledge work. It's called knowledge work. So if knowledge work is no longer a valuable commodity, and that was also, let's not even say the bulk of it, but let's say 50% of our economy was based on knowledge work, which is just like basically doing something on a computer, If that can be done better by AI, then all of a sudden, 50% of the population is unemployed and unemployable because it's not even a matter of like, getting a different job in a different industry that's a lateral change. It's like you can't enter any of those industries because humanity actually becomes a liability in those situations. My face feels warm. That looks normal. When I feel weird and then I look at myself, I look normal. Shout out to the homunculus. But yeah, it's just it's an interesting precipice to be on because I don't know. Again, the stakes are real, and it's like the first time in my life, and I think I've mentioned this before, but it bears repeating, but not before a sip. I really like the fact, and again, this is just me talking. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying this is me speaking my truth. But, as a younger person, I used to have this feeling like I wanted to have an impact on the world, and I felt like it was I was beholden to like a type of standard where I would basically like feel like I needed to do something important and utilize my time on this planet to do something impactful. And I don't think that that's untrue at the point that we're at now, but I do think that the stakes have changed because now it's like, well, like another human Einstein isn't even going to be worth like the paper that it's printed on compared to what AI will be able to do, because it will be, as Dario Amodei from Anthropic, the CEO, he talks about basically having like countries worth of geniuses, all housed and comprised within servers. So it's like you don't have to wait for whatever period of time it takes for another Einstein to be born because there are digital Einsteins all the time that are doing important, meaningful, impactful, and immediately enforceable or implementable work at a scale and at a timeline. Yeah, sure, whatever. That humans can't even mimic at our best. Like it'll make Einstein look slow and dull, respectfully. But yeah, man, 40 minutes. Wow, I guess I am feeling better. But yeah, exciting things on the horizon. I made some friends today. And that's the thing too about all of this stuff. It's like the thing that I look forward to beyond being let go from the feeling like I need to do something important, which again, I'm not saying I don't, but it's like the pressure is off because it's like, oh, all of the things that I value most will be fixed by machines now. And I know I'm not trying to say that I'm right, or that like things will happen exactly as I'm thinking that they might. But speaking my truth, that's kind of how I feel. Oh damn, my dude's walking back. I have a little bit of service here, that's good. Let me see something. Come on, my dude. Share this location. Can I just like... Oh my god. Come on. Just let me copy paste this. Sorry. Just trying to tell my dude that there's pretty good camping in this general area. Anyway, yeah, I mean, I feel like human beings, they should be able to do stuff like what I'm doing or whatever their passions may be and not have to worry about money or health insurance or mortgages or all this archaic stuff that limits your ability to focus on the only thing that human beings are actually good at, which is like pursuing our own joy. Like, it's a shame that joy has to be diminished. You know, we're here for such a short period of time. And as I talked about recently with the Richard Dawkins gratitude practice, like, again, I think it's 10 to the 30th possible genetic combinations when a human being is being formed. And so the fact that, like, the fact that we exist at all is a miracle. And most people who could ever exist won't, because of the dramatic number of possible genetic combinations. And so you shouldn't be hampered, by the trappings of like late stage capitalism, all these things, all these bills, all these like meaningless menial responsibilities. Like, we didn't really ever leave the feudal, like, lowly stamps of our social origin. It's just like things could be so much better. You should be able to pursue what you want to do. It shouldn't be about, I don't know, it's going to take a long time for things to change socially, just because social contracts are as deep as anything else that we have evolved to feel and pursue. But if you can reframe the narrative so that pursuing joy doesn't make you feel like you're guilty of some kind of guilty of some sort of shaking off of social responsibility. Like, that's the way life should be lived. And I don't like to use shoulds. Shoulds are dangerous. And they're also, I don't like prescriptions. And any kind of statement that contains a should is a prescriptive statement. And those are bad, because you cannot tell other people what they should do, because that precludes their entire lived experience. The only person who can tell them, I don't even think you should tell yourself about shoulds. I think you should just, as the kids say, fork around and find out, So, yeah, it's a lot. And it's exciting. It's really exciting. The stakes are real. If I had been born, 80 years ago, perhaps I would have had similar existential considerations about everything that was happening, but I don't know if it would feel as real. It probably would have, just because I would have had no other means of comparison. But the way that things are going now, I'm just like, this is exciting. Like, this is like such a great time to be alive. As Peter Diamandis says, the only time that's better than right now is tomorrow. And I wholeheartedly agree. And I hope that I can sleep tonight in a safe way that doesn't also involve me having to jump out of my tent and do some undesirable biological needfuls. But we'll leave all that as it is, because it is what it is, and it was what it was. So, yeah, I'm going to walk back up this embankment and see if I can help my dude to whatever degree might be helpful. So, I'll leave it there for now, and I will leave you with a classic shout out to my parents, love you, bye.